What was something that you saw on the draft board that made you want to have the back-to-back picks in the first round?
Well, we had a number of players that were good fits that we thought in Chicago, and we like to be aggressive, and when we see some of that could make some sense for us, we went and tried to make it happen, and Minnesota was interested, and it netted us 2 players that we were dying to have, so worked out perfectly.
Yeah, can you talk about what Hailey Van Lith brings to this guard group and what you see out of what she can bring in not only her own game, but how she can learn from Kia Nurse, Rachel Banham, and Courtney Vandersloot?
Sure. Ty, you want to take it?
Yeah, I think first of all she has a winning mindset. She's got a toughness about her that there's no complacency there in terms of what her improvement and potential can be, and that's part of the culture that we want to build here in Chicago. So there's a lot to like about where she is now as a player and a whole lot to love about where she can be moving forward.
Tyler, you saw her in that Sweet 16 game where she really had that breakout moment. Just kind of what was your read on her performance throughout that game?
Yeah, I think she's been a focal point for TCU all year, and I think you can see the incremental improvements throughout her college career. But yeah, TCU, I think the style of play was more of a look of what she'll see in the W in terms of the spacing and a little bit more pick and roll than she was used to earlier in her career. So a lot of those things stuck out. But again, the potential that we have, not just with the veteran group that we have that she'll be able to learn from, but the staff that we put together from a player development standpoint, I think that she'll get a lot of use out of them as well.
Jeff, I'm curious with Sivka going for a European player. First, what kind of pre-draft conversations did you guys have with her? Do you expect her to be available and coming over to the draft this season?
Yeah, no, good question. We had a lot of really good conversations with her. She's an outlier at her size, at 6'4", who can move like she can move, who can shoot as fast as she can shoot. Extended range, a lot of length, and as far as her coming to the W, there'll be ongoing conversations. But we drafted her because we wanted her to play here, so hopefully sooner rather than later, because she's got a chance to be special.
At only 19 years old, that's she won't even be old enough to drink in this country. When she comes over, just what did you guys see, and what trust did you guys have to have her be your first pick of the night?
Yeah, it gives you a good window into maybe our league when you're watching players that young that have been pros for a number of years. So she's been able to have a lot of success at playing against grown women, and so it gives us a little bit of a blueprint. That when you can handle yourself there, that you can probably, as you get older, and imagine that girl in 2, 3, 4 years from now, how special she might be, because at that size. Even looking throughout our league, as far as her mobility and her ability to shoot the ball and shoot as quickly as she does, there's just not a lot of them, so it's too hard to pass up.
Do you see her as a franchise player who could stick around for maybe 10 years in the league here?
Yeah, we think she's great. We think there's not a lot of her, so players at that size that can shoot the ball, you always want them around. And in our league, shooting, defines a lot of success. So, yeah, it's a player we want to keep here forever.
Jeff, when you look at the draft and how everything shook out, especially with the way that Hailey rose up draft boards with their NCAA tournament performance, were you excited? What were the emotions like seeing her slide you at 11? What was that like in those moments?
Yeah, look, last year we were sitting at 3-7, had a lot more control. We made a move yesterday to secure another player that we were hoping was going to be there. Ended up being Hailey and Ajša, but in all reality, it's like you sit there and you wait and you have no idea what's going to happen, and you stick to the board, you stick to your strategy. It wasn't a ton of discussion because we were hoping to land her if she was there. So again, you're at the mercy of the teams in front of you. But again, being able to go get another pick, a day beforehand really gave us some flexibility and able to get 2 players that we were really excited to have.
Were you surprised that she was there?
Absolutely. We're surprised that Sivka was there. We're surprised Hailey was there. So yeah, we're sitting in a really good place right now.
Coach Marsh, back to kind of what Hailey Van Lith brings to this team. Not only we know what she can bring offensively, but defensively she can be really disruptive. How do you see her defensive game really translating into the W?
Yeah, I think, and we've had some conversation about this before, I think that defense, a lot of it is about will just as much as it is about ability. And so the willingness to want to get up and pressure the ball is something that'll be important. And, I think sometimes it gets a little overrated of what on-ball defense can be. I think that, for Hailey and a lot of guards in this league, it's mostly about not being able to get screened. If you can do that, you have a chance. I think that we got a lot of really good, quick guards, really good offensive guards in this league. And so, if you're asked to pressure the ball 50, 60 times in a game, you're going to get beat every now and then. You're going to get hit by some screens every now and then. So, again, I think it's the willingness to want to improve on that part is what we're looking at the most, more so than what the actual ability is, if that makes sense.
Also looking at the second round picks, you guys selected, I don't know, Coulibaly, is that your last name? And then Maddie Westbeld. What did you see out of the two of them that, wanted you to bring them to Chicago?
Yeah, I think first with Maddie, she had a great career at Notre Dame. She's another one that can stretch the floor at her position, and there's not a lot of people with her size that's able to do it at the clip that she's able to do it. So certainly her ability to space the floor is something that stuck out, but also she's a really headstrong player. Like she's got a great basketball mind and basketball IQ, and bounce the way she was able to bounce back from her injury this past year with Notre Dame, and do whatever it takes to for that team to be successful, whatever she's called upon to do, is something that jumped off the screen to us. So, and it wasn't just this year. There's somebody that we've taken a look at for a while, respectively, when I was in Vegas, and obviously Jeff here in Chicago, but somebody that we saw eye to eye on. But and then Coulibaly, she's got great athletic, physical gifts. And so we're looking to see how we can implement her moving forward as well. Another strong body on the wings that we can utilize and be versatile with.
Does that injury that she suffered in January kind of give you guys a little bit of hesitation on whether or not she'll be available for this season?
No, not at all. I want her to get healthy. We'll figure out a rehab plan for her. But she's got a lot of weapons, and physically, when she's healthy, she's dominant. So we're excited to get her too.
For a player like Hailey, who bounced around 3 different schools and had success at each school, I believe reached the Elite Eight with each school that she was a part of. Just talk about that tenacity, because that in itself, just bouncing from school, program to program, having learned the schemes and having success, what does that talk about her and just her tenacity to succeed?
I think it speaks to her ability to adjust. It's 3 different schools and 3 different offensive systems that she had to be accustomed to. And so her ability to adjust gives me confidence that adjusting to that on the W level is something that she'll be able to do, and that she's going to give us 110% in doing so. And so that's all we can ask of these young players. I think that at times we're because of the timing of this W season comparative to the end of the college season, we want these players to be a finished product right off the bat, and that's not what we're asking them to do. But that's why we have player development. That's why we have player development coaches. That's my background. That's Jeff's background. So we're going to put all of our efforts in to making sure that Hailey, Maddie, Aicha, and Ajša are in a position to maximize their full potential. So,
Julia, next, please.
You guys have really emphasized player development and talking about all 4 of these players. What do you think that says for kind of the timeline that you guys are looking at in terms of what you want to be building towards and what you want kind of growth to look like for this franchise?
Good.
yeah, I think there's a direct correlation in winning and developing, and I think winning looks different for different teams. I think, for us, we want to be as competitive as possible. That's kind of the staple that we want to be built behind. We're going to let the results turn out however they may, but we want to set a level of expectations to the standard that we want to play at, a championship standard, and then we can kind of work forward from there. So for us, again, I can't give you a true timeline. The timeline for us is continued growth, and the timeline for us is we want to be as competitive of a team as possible from day one, starting at training camp.
For both of you guys, Hailey, Aicha, and Maddie have combined total 440 college games. How does that affect player development, and is that something that's significant to you?
Yes, I don't think there's a timeline on what development could look like. I think that you can get better at any point of your career. Certainly more college experience helps you in the transition to coming over to the pros. But I think if you were to talk to the vets that we've brought in, whether it's Beck Allen or Ariel or Kia, who have been in this league for a while, they still have a hunger to get better as well. So we don't put a age or a time limit on what player development looks like in our organization.
Yeah, and we emphasized that in our conversations with the players, and when we speak together, we want players that want to be helped. So if players, wanted to come in and improve, we wanted to be a destination for them. And we're going to continue to highlight our player development, top to bottom. Outside of Tyler and I, our whole staff, they have weapons in every department. We have so many ex-pros and so many skilled teachers here that we're going to really start to highlight this. And when we spoke to these players, we wanted to make sure that they didn't think they were a finished product, and we need open minds. We want creative people because we have creative coaches. And, and in all reality, like I said, you can only help people that want to be helped. And those are the types of players here now. And we just drafted a bunch of players that are going to complement that core with that mentality.
We'll go to Alyssa, and then we'll open up to Zoom.
Hey, two quick ones for you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can bring 15 players to training camp. So I think you guys are at 17 right now. So what does that mean?
Can have some more.
You can have
Yeah,
more?
yeah.
18?
18 to 20, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And then, Jeff, you talked about wanting to have synergy between your posts and guards and guards and posts.
Sure.
Maybe for both of you, can you guys talk about the synergy that you see maybe between Sivka and your guards and then maybe Hailey in the post?
Yeah, absolutely. Easy, Ty.
Yeah, I think that synergy is something that's created in camp, and I think we're going to work to establish an identity of what that looks like offensively, so that our expectations are clear and thoroughly communicated to our players, so that they have an understanding of what kind of system they can expect to be part of, but what type of shots they're looking to get, where they're looking to get them. And I think once we can develop that synergy from coach to player, I think then it translates to player.
We'll open it up to Zoom. We'll start with Jason. Please unmute.
Hey, Jeff. Jason Leisure with the Chicago Sun-Times. Just a question for you about how the 2 first-round picks fit into your big-picture blueprint for trying to build a team. From the outside, they look like players that could contribute on the perimeter that might fit well with what you've already got.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Look, we're always going to be looking for players that play the right way, that are selfless, that are good teammates, that want to improve. And, Ajša at that age, of 19 is a player that we're going to try to continue to develop and see if we can have her game grow to be much more than just a shooter. We're going to make sure she improves offensively. We're going to make sure that she can put the ball on the floor a little bit. We're going to increase her athleticism. So, a player like that, long term, I mean, the sky's the limit at her size. And as far as Hailey Van Lith goes, she can play 1 or 2. She's a player that, is really always about her toughness. And to Tyler and I, we're always going to be looking at to continue to add toughness to our roster. We feel like that's a cornerstone of who we are, who we added in the offseason. And Hailey Van Lith, I'd say her biggest skill, is her ability to adjust, adapt, and still come out on top.
Steven, please unmute.
Jeff, Tyler, this is Steven from CHGO Sports. Nice to talk with y'all. Just thinking about you all's culture and the identity that you're looking to establish, can you speak to how the players that you all drafted today fit in terms of style of play as well as your daily habits with the culture?
Yeah, I think the word that comes to mind is versatile. I think that's what we want to be come the season. But as it relates to our players today, there's versatility there. Jeff just talked about Hailey's ability to play the 1 and the 2. Her ability to facilitate as well as score is something that we'll try to utilize at times. And when you talk about Ajša, her ability to stretch the floor at her size, her ability to play inside out as well. Certainly adds to that versatility, and then the same for Maddie and Aicha as well. They've both shown their ability to be versatile at their respective colleges throughout their careers as well. So versatility is the word that comes to mind there.
We'll close out with Cheryl and then Tina.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
Hi, Cheryl.
What I want to ask you both, what was it like, Tyler, being a first-time head coach, going through this process? And Jeff, what was it like with your new coach going through the process for you?
Yeah, I think that we came in with a clear plan for us, which certainly helps that transition. We've been digging in deep for the last few months in terms of what we were looking at, and we went through just about every scenario possible of who could possibly be on the board, who could go where, and so that gave the confidence to know that whatever we were looking at 10 to start, and then obviously getting an 11 last night, it gave us another picture of what we will be looking at come today, and so we were ready, we were prepared, so it was a pretty smooth transition for myself.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Tyler and I couldn't be more connected on a daily basis. So the conversations were often and daily, and we talked through the types of players that were going to be great fits for how he wanted to play. And it really gave us, a lot of insight early on, when we were studying the draft boards, who was going to be available, who could make the most sense for Chicago and how he wanted to play. But we see the game with a lot of similarity, and we also have no issues going back and forth, when we're not in agreement. And I think that's going to be, the mark of our success. And I've got nothing but trust in this guy. And this plan that we had going into tonight, with him in his first year, I mean, we got just about all our targets, and it's tricky, with picks spread out like they were. But in all reality, we had a plan, we stuck to it, we felt very prepared.
Last two questions.
Thank you for your time.
Tina and Carly, one apiece, please.
Tyler, overall, what excites you most about this roster as you prepare for training camp, first time as a head coach too?
Yeah, I think it's just the hunger to compete. I think that we got so many different players from with different experiences, from this past year, and I'm excited to get them all together. There's just a sense of newness from everyone. Just I think that me starting off my head coaching career with a whole new group, pretty much. I think that it's something that I couldn't ask more for, and they've all been so supportive thus far. The organization has been extremely supportive, and I just think that we have such a great mix of vets and young pieces that I can't wait to see how they gel together on and off the court.